Okay, let's do one more problem this week. I know in the first video I said I was only going to do two, but it's worthwhile, I think, to do a third one. In fact, what I'd like to do is a histogram problem. This is problem 2.8-80.2.80, found on page 90 in the textbook. It asks us to create a histogram. Now, I think histograms are a good thing to know how to do. It's not just theory. It's something that's very practical. Your boss could very easily come to you someday and say, hey, John, I'd like you to create a histogram, a picture that we can show the board of directors next week when they're here, showing them how our company is doing. And if you're able to create an accurate histogram quickly and without a lot of fuss and bother, that's a really good thing to know how to do. So here's some data that we can practice on. It's a list of companies, and it shows a number of things. The one we're interested in, the column we're interested in, is the EPS growth. Now, EPS stands for earnings per share. A company makes so much money every year, let's say $1 million, and if it has 1 million shares of common stock outstanding, that company is said to earn $1 per share. Earnings per share is $1. And many people use earnings per share as a way of measuring the value of a company. They'll say, I'm willing to pay 31 times the PE ratio. I'm willing to pay 31 times that company's earnings in terms of the price of the stock on the New York Stock Exchange. So if its earnings per share is $1, a share of that stock would be worth 31. That's not the subject of statistics, so I won't take it any further than that. But what we're showing here in column C is not the earnings per share, but the growth rate year over year. This company increased its earnings per share by 222%. That's pretty good thing to do. Not many companies are doing that these days in our recessionary times, but nonetheless, we're asked to create a histogram of all these companies. Now, to do that, we're going to follow the procedure found on page 59. And the first step is to calculate the number of classes. And we know that the number of classes depends to a certain extent on the number of data elements we have. And we can see here we have how many? Scroll down here so you can see. 30. We have 30 data elements. So if we look at the table on the top of page 57, we see that for 16 to 32 data elements, they recommend that we use 5 classes. There's nothing magic about 5. You could use 6, you could use 4, you could use whatever number you think makes the data look the best and give the most accurate story about that data. But let's use 5. That's a good number. Why not? I'm sorry, N is the number of data elements, 30. K is the number of classes, or 5. Okay, we've got that. Now, the class length, we know we take the range that we have, the range of values we have, and divide it by the number of classes, and that says how big each of the classes should be. If you have a board that's 10 inches long, and you want to divide it into 5 chunks, well, each chunk would be 2 inches. Same thing here. We need to know the length of this data, and the length is equal to the biggest value minus the smallest value. I'm going to use Excel to find the biggest one, of course. You could scan your eye down and find it probably quicker than I can type it. But nonetheless, max is the formula, the function. I take the range, I close the parentheses, and I find that the biggest value in my data set is 256%. What's the smallest one? Well, it's the min. Again, I'm going to select the range. Oops, I want one column. There we go, 47, and the difference is the class length. So the range is equal to 256 minus 47, or 209%. Each class should therefore be what? It should be equal to the total range divided by the number of classes, K. That gives us 41.8%. This, incidentally, is step 2 on page 59, if you're following along in your textbook. Okay, so 41.8, that's a messy number. No one likes fractional parts of percentages, so let's call it 42%. Okay, now, Next thing to do, step 3, is to form the classes. Well, we're going to use the less than class. What that means is the bottom number in our class definition will be included, but the top number will not. So the bottom number, of course, is the smallest value, 47%. And the top value is going to be equal to the bottom value plus our range, 42. So that says the first range, the first class will run from 47, including 47, up to 89%, but not including 89%, because 89% is going to define the bottom of the next range. So we make the top of the first range be the bottom of the second range, and now we're going to include 89. But again, we're going to, just as we did here, we're going to take the bottom of the range and add the increment to it. Now I've just drag that right down, and I'll fill it in without having to retype anything. There's just one thing I have to do, is put the $sign in, because I don't want that 10 to change as I drag down. Let's see what happens. So 89, I drag it down. Now I haven't filled in the rest of these, so these numbers aren't going to be right. But you can see what happens. G14 to O10 is correct for this one. G15, we didn't have a $sign, so the 14 became a 15. O10, because of the $sign, the 10 did not change. I always want to be pointing to O10 here, even as I drag down. Now all I have to do is drag this one down. I don't need any $signs. And there are my ranges, 131 to 173, and the top one is 215 to 257. All right, now we've got our classes. What do we do next? Well, we count how many elements there are in each class. Now again, you can make a little check mark for every one of these 30 data elements that fall within each range. That's kind of bothersome. So let's use Excel. An Excel function we need is count if. First thing it asks for, you can see, is the range. So I'll select the range, my mouse, click and drag, comma. Now it needs a criteria, and this is where this thing gets a little tricky. I really don't know why they made it so hard, but they did. So we start out with a quotation mark, because this is a literal, they say, and put quotation marks around our less than, because that's our criteria, and we tack on or append with the ampersand sign the value we want, in this case 89%. So let's close that and see. That says there's 13 values that are less than, but not including 89% in our data series. Now really what we need to do is subtract all those that are less than 47%, because we don't want to include anything less than 47%. Now you'll say, wait a minute, Instructor John, there's none. We know that there are none that are less than 47%. That's the bottom of the range. Well, that's true, but as you'll see in a moment when I drag this guy down, I'm kind of lazy about typing. We'll want to exclude him in the next range. So again, I'll take the data range here like that, comma. Oops, I lost it here, didn't I? Did something wrong. Try it again. Take the range of data elements like that, comma, and then this quotation, less than, quotation, ampersand. Now I want 47%. So close that. So what have I done? Well, I said take all the values that are less than 89%, but not including 89%, and subtract all those that are less than, but not including 47%. So 0 through 46% will not be included. 47 through 89, but not including, through 88% really, will be included. 89 will not, because that's going to be in the next range. Now, before I do my dragging, I want my range of data elements to stay the same. I don't want that to vary as I drag down. So I put $signs in there. After, this $sign business, after a while it becomes second nature, but it takes a lot of thinking to get it so that it's easy to remember to do. And I drag down, and let's look at the last one, see how that's doing. It says take the data range C6 through C37. That's good. That's what we want. There's C6 through C37. And say if it's less than I18, where's I18? Right here. And subtract off all those that are less than G18. So less than 215, that'll be all these up here, will be excluded. So that looks right. Now let's just, as a double check, put in a sum here. There's the sum way up here of all those data elements to make sure. And what should it add up to? 30, right? Ah, good, I got the right answer. Okay, now all we have to do is graph the data. So to do that, I'm going to select the data range, and I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and I'm going to do a column chart, and I'm going to make it a funky one with, let's make it cones. I think that would be just for fun. And there it is. Isn't that pretty? Oops. Pull it down here so we can see the data too. Like that. I hate it when they put the Series 1 over here. Let's do it like that. Get rid of it. Now, you can see the little pyramids. This one goes up to 13. It's supposed to go up to 13, but it's a little tippy top is kind of hard to see, isn't it? One thing that's wrong with this chart, another thing that's wrong with this chart is that the data elements down here show up as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That isn't very descriptive. The boss doesn't know what 1 is. So let's see if we can change that. I'm going to right click on this chart and do select data. And you notice over here the horizontal category axis. I'm going to edit that. And, I forgot to do something first. I'm going to put this over here so I know what we're doing. Maybe this. Yeah. Let me start over again. I forgot to drag in my I've made these up already so we wouldn't save, so we'd save a little time. I just typed this out to make it look into a single string. So now when I right click on this and do select data, I'm going to edit the horizontal axis, and it says what is the axis label range. Well, now I can click over here to these guys that I made and just do like that, and you look what happened. Now I have my nice little pretty data range elements all in there. That looks nice. I can say OK to that. I think I can change the, if I can remember how to do it, I could change the color. I could, what do you like, purple? Let's go with the red. But I really don't like those cones because I can't see the top of them very well. I should be able to lay out shapes, axes. There's somewhere in here that you can change the format. No, design. You can do lots of different things here. Oh, change chart type. Here it is, way over here. I don't like that. Let's go back to cylinders. See if that looks any better. And now you can start to see that 13 and 12 is bigger than 12, but less than 14. The problem is we've got this three-dimensional thing going on here. Let's change it one more time to be just a straightforward column. Now we can see the data, right? Now you can see that clearly the first range is 13. So while the others are cute and maybe make everybody go ooh and ah, they don't do a very good job of displaying the data. Okay, that's enough messing around with charts. I hope that helps you understand how to do a histogram. It's really not that hard, as long as you let your audience know what exactly you're doing, because understanding how these labels work is important. It says from 47 through, but not including 89. As long as you make that clear, then you can define these labels any way you want. Excel does it one way, the book does it another. You can do it a third. As long as you tell people what you're doing, you're okay. All right, that's it for week 4. Enjoy the review, and I'll see you online.